There you go, folks. What a introduction right there. Oh, we got some interesting earth-sounding tones going. Oh, no, we're good now. Here we are, folks. You have to pardon me if I got some weird camera angles going on here. My setup's a little bit messed up right now, but I'll eventually get it straightened out. We're back with the House of the Dragon team here on the Bleeding Edge. Killing it, as always. Tony's here with Renee, Loki's mom. And I'm here, Jeff S, TrueKnowledge. What's up, folks? How you doing? What's up, Tony? What's up, Renee?
Doing good.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm feeling better. Had the COVID, my first ever case. You'd have thought like I was exposed to this crap like when all of this first started for like 24 hours at a time around everybody like COVID positive. Never had any issues with it. Was around COVID positive people in Detroit. Tested like every day. Never got it. Then all of a sudden I go to one old folks home that has it, and I get freaking COVID for the first damn time. And I'm like, damn it. But luckily I'm back. I feel 1,000 times better. Feel back to the way I was before. So I'm happy to be back, happy to be rocking and happy to be rolling. So
Renee, have you ever had COVID?
Yeah, I had it last year.
No shit.
All right, at the first of this year, actually. Yeah, it was. I just felt tired. For a while. I mean, just like somebody had beaten, but I never really felt like I was like get the flu or anything like that. It was just a real tired. It felt like I had run 10 miles or something type feeling, but that was it. It lasted about a week.
I can't remember that. I'm surprised I wouldn't have known that. Or, I mean, weren't you? We knew each other then, didn't we?
It might have been right after I started.
Or yeah.
Right before I started, yeah.
Maybe I just can't remember. Yeah, I probably just don't remember.
It was just like right after Christmas. So it might have been. I can't remember if it was the first year or just right, but it was right around Christmas time.
Well, I want to put it out there right now. I want to point it out that I'm going to go ahead right now and go ahead and give my 1 through 10 for the finale of the House of the Dragon. I'm going to give it a 10.5. Just to be clear, just to make it clear, like where I'm at with the finale right from jump. So yeah, I'm not going to be biased in my moderation or anything like that and whatnot. I already talked to Tony before the show and made sure that I told him, I said, hey, watch out, Tony. If I start getting freaking, too pro House of the Dragon, just slap me back, put me back on track. But no, I think Rhaenyra was the fucking MVP of the finale without question. Like, they really set her up throughout the series perfectly for this finale. Almost, it was almost like a perfect setup for her to just like step in and finally come together and actually like present herself as something formidable, right? Something that could actually be like people could believe in and surround themselves around. You know what I'm saying? And like and feel confident that swearing in the fealty to her and whatnot was a good decision. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That she finally seemed really coherent and with it and like strong and like at the same time strategic and patient, right? And so I guess based off of that premise, Renee, and then to you, Tony, what did you think of Rhaenyra's performance across the span of the episode, across the span of the finale? Renee.
Oh, I thought you were asking Tony.
No.
Okay. Her performance across the series.
Yeah, across the span of the whole. Well, yeah. I mean, no. I'm glad you mentioned that like that. I know across the whole span of the episode, but also like I mentioned, kind of how it almost set up the way it did for her, to have this opportunity in the finale to kind of shine, I guess.
Yeah, she absolutely. I think what's the actress's name? The adult that's playing the adult version.
Amelia Darcy.
Yes.
Okay, Darcy. Yeah,
Emma Darcy.
Emma Darcy. Yeah, she's really a really good actress. I mean, I think I said before. I think she kind of didn't have quite the same appeal that the younger actress had. She kind of had something special. But even so, she played the mature version of the woman, and yeah, really, really good performance. It was powerful. I mean, like you say, they didn't even have any of those characters. It was all the green folks. Last week's episode concentrated on them solely. So then we get to this episode where they're just now finding out that the king has died, and so they're having to make all their moves and whatnot. So yeah, it's really, just like you say, it was a really good finale, and really just, and then of course leaves us with a cliffhanger, for the next time.
Well, I mean, this is the start of the Dance of the Dragons. This is it. Like, this is the, what I'm saying? Like, basically, like, the way that the episode culminates and ends leads right into the Dance of the Dragons, which is what we're going to get in season 2, I would imagine, right, Tony?
Yeah. This is one of those that and the directors even admitted this in one of the past episodes, that this was essentially to set up the backstory to everything that will be the Dance of the Dragons. Hey, this is where all of these seeds are kind of sown in, as far as, Viserys only getting a male heir after he's already named, Rhaenyra as his actual heir after he disowns Daemon. And then it's okay, well, now you have a son. Are you going to go ahead and give it to him? Are you going to keep it with Rhaenyra? He breaks this whole tradition thing of unwritten law that, it's only supposed to be a male heir. They've never had a female heir, ever come into power like that. What's really cool, and I do agree with you, Jeff, I think this was Rhaenyra's best moment, because it's a culmination of, we've watched Rhaenyra kind of grow throughout the series of kind of being this kid that she's like, well, I've never been dad's favorite. I'm still not dad's favorite. And then afterwards, and he's like, okay, well, now you're my favorite. Now you're going to be the heir. Now you have all these responsibilities. And it all kind of hits her at once. And she's like, I'm still not ready for it. I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want to do this whole marriage pact. I don't want to get married. She ends up finally kind of doing it because that's what she's supposed to do. And then in this episode, when, they realize that Viserys is dead, the fact that she's the only level-headed person out of everybody in here, and I don't know if you both noticed this, she really garnered the respect of Rhaenys out of this, because, she stayed, poised, she stayed dignified. Daemon's like, let's go to war. Rhaenys, why didn't you just kill him when you had the chance? Like, just, have Meraxes just burn all of them right there. It's like, no, this isn't my job. I'm queen. I'm supposed to keep everything stable. This is going to be messy. There is going to be a war, but we need to try to keep this as, civilized and composed as we can before, basically being seen as the enemy. It's like, because now, okay, well, the Greens drew first blood. Now Rhaenyra doesn't have to worry about that. That's not a political thing she's going to have to deal with. Like, nope, I didn't start the war. I went and sent envoys. My kid was a peaceful messenger, and he gets killed for it. So really, this is kind of her growing up moment, and her really showing that she is queen material and that she can run the Seven Kingdoms.
Yes. I mean, that scene where we finally get to see Corlys back. He's bedridden after being wounded in the Stepstones. And another great scene with him and Rhaenys, where he basically just says, like, he's almost defeated. He's like, you know what, like, damn this fucking, like, the pursuit for this throne. You know what I mean? Like, let's just go back to freaking Driftmark or whatever and whatnot, right? And raise our grandchildren and whatnot, and whatever, chill. And and basically that's right where what you alluded to, Tony, is when Rhaenys basically says to him, like, you don't understand. Like, if not for Rhaenyra, her whole council and Daemon are already ready to go to war right now with, like, their freaking, like, tiny little army. It's not even an army. It's like nothing. Yeah. It's like not even a platoon or whatever, like, it's not, they basically, I mean, they're not in exactly, like, in the best spot militarily, as far as, like, if you want to talk about manpower. But now we're going to talk about the dragons here in a minute. From a dragon standpoint, things are a little bit different. And I think, and that's an interesting, aspect of the whole situation. But I mean, they do make it clear, and Daemon explains right in the beginning to Rhaenyra when she asked him what their situation is on Dragonstone, that Dragonstone essentially is, which I've read this in the books, it's built and designed to be fortified and to be held. You don't have to have a lot of troops or people or whatever and whatnot to actually hold Dragonstone. But again, dragons can burn it to shreds if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So basically, in terms of like, I guess, an intro, we do see Rhaenys, who I think was really poignant in this episode too. I think that she probably was one of the second or third most important characters across the span of the finale. I've enjoyed her throughout the whole series. I think that has ended up being like a real gem for me in the series. Almost like if I had to give the Disney Plus series, I usually give a Monica Rambeau award to like what I consider to be like the standout secondary character of the series. I would give that award probably to her if I was going to give it to anybody. I think that she's been great. Whoever that actress is that plays her has been outstanding. But she does show up and deliver the news that Viserys is dead, and drops that warning that the Greens are coming for you and for your children. That causes essentially, I guess, the stress of it or whatever. For those of you who have read about the dance of the dragon, we're all aware of what happens at this point. That she then ends up having early childbirth, which at that point during this time period, right, is essentially like there's what are you going to do, right? And we see like one of the most freaking like insane, horrific, like real deal, like cruel. I don't even know how to explain it. Scenes. I don't know. How would you describe it, Renee?
What? Horrendous?
what we then see when as they start off by showing her starting to struggle with this like premature birth,
very gruesome.
And then
gruesome.
And then they do that same deal where they mingle it and they interconnect it with what else is going on during the rest of the finale. You know what I'm saying? Like it becomes like almost like a duality, right as Daemon is using his dragon to like get people to like swear fealty to Rhaenyra up under threat of dragon fire, right? Like that shit was intense. What Tony? I mean, what did you think of that crap, man?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what it showed more than anything. It's just that culmination of she's going to be struggles, and there's going to be struggles throughout all of this. Like she's going to have to try to keep Daemon from just going to war and killing everybody. And of course, he's like, I got to get fealty. I got to get dragons ready. I got to do all like Daemon is more of the war side of it that wants to, he's the warmonger that wants to go do this because that's kind of his specialty. Like his specialty really isn't ruling. Like he's one of those, he likes to fight and he likes to fuck. Like those are the two things Daemon likes to do. And Rhaenyra is like, no, I need to be the level-headed adult. And, it does show the struggles that she's going to go through. She's going to have losses. She's going to have, times where it's like, this is going to be really difficult and you have to make a hard choice. And it does show, as gruesome as it is, that she follows all the way through. Like she does it by herself. She's like, I know there's going to be times where I'm going to be alone because nobody else, because you think about it right now, the only person that truly has her back about not going to war is Rhaenys. But at the same time, Rhaenys isn't going to offer counsel because it's like, well, this is your show. I was in this quote unquote same boat at one point and ended up getting passed up for it. So how are you going to do it? And I mean, she follows through all the way to the end. So this is kind of a really good tie-in of the potential future struggles we're going to see Rhaenyra go through as the Dance of the Dragons continues on.
Renee, honestly, you'd have to admit, right, that she's obviously a clearly strong woman to be able to do what she's in, to literally stand up and hold your feet and experience what she experienced, right? And just keep on moving.
It compares to the other several, because there's been several childbirth scenes. We've had. I guess this would be number 4 at this point, and we saw. I think when we first saw her, when we saw the adult, when we first came back to that big time jump, and then she's there. She's in labor there. Mm-hmm. I think it calls back to that, but also I think when she's thinking now, remember her mother has died in childbirth, and her Damien's wife also. She had the same deal, you know. And we saw how I'm not sure what she would have been to her niece or something. How that works out in this whole family tree thing. But anyway,
when everybody's banging everybody, who cares?
yeah, at this point, yeah. But anyway, how her bravery, but she had to ultimately kill. She had to die with the baby, but she said, I'm not going to die with this baby. I'm going to have this baby right now." And so she just literally forces it out. I mean, she just sits there and like you say, I think she just sort of reaches up in there, grabs a hold of the head, and just pulls it on out. I mean, I think it's premature, so it's not as big as actual, probably a lot smaller, maybe about 4 or 5 pounds. But yeah, she was not going to, at that point in time, she was going to not die with that baby.
Yeah.
No. And like, look, I mean, again, I experienced in my own life, sadly, when I was younger, my ex-wife and I had a miscarriage. Well, she had a miscarriage, you know, and I was a kid. I mean, I was 20 years old. She was 19, I think. If that, you know what I mean? Like maybe 19 and 18. I can't remember. And, you know, and she was only like not even 3 months pregnant, I think, or something like that, right? You know, if that. So, and that was really intense. Like that was a really, really rough night. Like, you know what I mean? I remember being younger and like, you know, being really like impacted by it and whatnot and feeling useless, you know what I'm saying? And whatnot, right? And like, you know, not knowing how to console her and everything and whatnot, but she was like really fucked up by it physically. So for her, like, I'm thinking, looking at that and watching that, right? In comparison, we're talking about this Rhaenyra like straight up pulled out like an almost like real life size baby out of her real quick, you know. Now, as far as her whole picking the baby up and holding it and all that shit and everything and whatnot, no, I mean, I'm not gonna lie with that. I wrote in my notes when I saw that, I wrote, "What the fuck?" Like seriously, but she's straight chilling with the dead baby. You know, like I mean, that was a little, you know, I don't know.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't know. Well, she's the mother.
Yeah.
And she has mother hormones going on.
Yeah. Well, and plus, I mean, it's one of those, you know, they say as a mom, the minute you find out you're pregnant, that you supposedly love the baby no matter what. Now, obviously, that's different, you know, person to person. For Rhaenyra, though, that's the one thing we've noticed is always a consistent, is that she loves all of her children no matter what. She's a very dedicated and caring mother. So, I mean, really, at that point, that's the only thing you can do. It's like, you know, she's sad that she's lost her baby. And I mean, you do, like, to her, you know, the logic is, I'm going to pick this baby up, like, because she still loves the baby and she's still upset that she's lost the baby, but she also knows basically what's caused this. And for her, I mean, it's one of those, she never really got to say hello, and now she's already having to say goodbye. So for her, it's that kind of, you know, I have to spend what time I can with my child before basically having to, you know, properly, you know, render, you know, burying her kid.
No,
I mean, she just grunted that thing out, and so she can like do whatever she wants to with it. If she wants to,
she's ready to roll. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's what I'm saying. She's a tough bitch. I say what you want about Rhaenyra, but like, I mean, she's no joke, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of dudes out there that they had to go through that shit, like she did and whatnot, and everything. They would not be walking around.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think too. What would we probably guess the timeline is between her doing that and then literally basically doing her own, I don't want to say autopsy, but basically like burial right to her kid?
Hours.
Yeah, like hours. So within, like, not only do you have to cope with the fact that you've lost your child, but then she's like, all right, I got to get it ready to be buried. I got to do everything. Nope, you guys aren't touching my baby. I'm just going to do it myself. I don't need y'all.
Yeah, I mean, like how she did when she got up right after having the baby and walked up to Allison, you know, who was determined to stand up. And, you know, my God, I've never had a baby myself, but I can't imagine how you're going to feel afterwards. So,
And especially back then when you don't have epidurals, you don't have drugs to like numb the pain. It's just all.
If I had a baby, that's how I would handle it too. I would do it like that, like Rhaenyra, baby. You know what I mean? I'd be like. I'd just be like,
squirt it out, yeah.
Yeah, and then I go blaze a joint right after that and like have a margarita. You know what I'm saying? Because booty.
Hey, we talked about this last time I was on. They have some type of lubrication, whether it's butter or something, make it slide out a little easier, and then just keep rolling. We'll just keep
a
going.
little axle grease.
I never hurt nobody. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're gonna need some special lubrication if I've got to push a baby out of my penis, because that's gonna be rough, man. It's gonna be tough.
Melon through a straw. Melon through a straw.
Right now, if you think what you saw in the finale with Rhaenyra, that scene was something, wait till you see that happen. You know, childbirth through penis is intense. It's no joke.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, you ain't gonna be walking around. You ain't gonna be walking around with that shit. I'll tell you that right now. You ain't gonna be no Dance of the Dragon after that. Anyways,
that might have been the birth of the first dragon, the first man who ever gave birth.
Yeah.
Turned into a dragon.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to. Like, oh my god.
As a response, as a reaction to the experience, like it became a dragon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you. I blame She-Hulk. That's all I can say. You know? That funny? If like right after Rhaenyra like got done with like, you know, that whole experience, she would have been like, that damn She-Hulk fucking Disney Plus series, man. You know? I'm telling you. Caused me to have premature birth and everything. But no, but this does become a major trope in the Dance of the Dragons, because although you didn't really see her vocally talk about this in the finale, over time they're gonna flush out the fact that they're gonna blame the loss of the baby on the Greens, and like they're all, and like the treachery and the traitor, you know, the traitorism that they're looking at, and that you hear them voice to Arlo Hightower and everything, you know, traitors, you know. At that point, you know, after that whole, and then the funeral scene and whatnot and everything, now we do see, and I think it's important to bring up, Tony, we do see right in the beginning Daemon assembling like his people at Dragonstone to strategize. And I want to point out that although he is a warrior and a fighter, Daemon is also a military strategist.
Yes.
He knows how to lead an army. He knows how to strategize and win wars. He knows how to fight battles. He's been in battles before. He's fought on horseback. He's led back, you know, and actually he's not just fought on dragons. That's it.
Yeah.
Like
when the draft mark, when they finally they went in with all the whatever it was, he set that trap where he walks in. He just literally goes in there, like runs the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Chopping people.
Well, yeah, because because like Tony pointed out before, like the dragons were like nuclear weapons. So like they know that, like the dragon riders and whatnot and everything. You know what I mean? So at that point, they will go out and fight right on the ground on their legs with swords and shit and whatnot, and all that, because they realize that like if they bring, it's almost in a way like bringing dragons into conflicts and whatnot, you know, and all that is almost like it's not like legit in a way, almost like it's not fair. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like, you know, if World War I was fought with like tanks versus like cavalry and like horseback, it's like that's not fair. And really, if you know, kind of like what you said, Jeff, he's a strategist, because you think about it, the crab feeder, you know, basically figured out a way to not really beat dragons but stall them. Like, okay, we're gonna hide back in these caves where the dragon can't get in. Yes, he can spew as much fire as he wants, but I have interconnected caves all throughout this little path and cliffway. I don't have to worry about getting burned, and they can just burn all they want, and we'll just basically wait them out as far as their morale goes, because it's like, okay, God, when are these guys going to come out so we can actually kill them? And Daemon said, okay, I'm going to leave the dragon, and I'm just going to come out and do it myself on foot, and we're just going to have to fight, you know, face to face. So yeah, it was one of those, instead of saying, okay, well, now I don't know what to do because I can't do anything on my dragon, he's like, all right, I'll just go out on foot and do it myself, and lured him into a perfect trap. So.
Well, no, and you notice that too when after Rhaenyra has the stillbirth or the premature birth, and they do have that legitimate council again, probably like within less than a day after like what she experienced, right? They're already having their first full blown, almost like quasi war council. They're trying to figure out where they're at, like, you know, determine, you know, who their allies are and who, you know, and who they aren't and whatnot. Yeah. Which I thought was a really great scene. You notice that for the first like 4, 5, 6 minutes of the meeting, no one even mentions dragons. All they're talking about is like army, men, numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, fighters with sword, you know, who can pick up a sword, who can fight. right? It took until that one council member stood up and was like, wait a minute, we've got fucking dragons. We've got tons of them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they are devastating, like, powerful, assets to have in war. Why are we even concerned about freaking House Baratheon? You know what I'm saying? Or anything. You know what I mean? Like, we got dragons. Go ahead.
Because like we pointed out, it's like a nuclear warhead. Because if one side does it, the other side's going to do it. And I mean, you can even relate this into Game of Thrones when Tyrion Lannister tells this to Daenerys, like, "Hey, when they ring the bells, stop the attack." And Daenerys is like, "Nope, everybody's burning. We're burning everybody." And again, that's kind of where I think Rhaenyra, even though she knows that war is going to happen and whatnot, it's like, well, you have to be careful about using dragons, because then really the whole entire kingdom can turn against you. The Greens are ready to fight basically a traditional battle, who wins via strategy, et cetera, whereas the Blacks are just like, yeah, we're just going to burn everybody and we'll take it that way. It's like, you can do that. You're not going to have as much people to rule over, but you can do that.
Like Rhaenyra said, I don't want to. I don't want to rule over a 7 kingdoms of ash,
and bone. Yeah, there's no point. It's like, yeah, you won, but at what cost? Like, what did it really get you? Like, you rule over basically people you already rule over to start with anyway.
No, but I do think it's interesting. I mean, I don't have it accurate right in front of me, but basically, if I remember correctly from that council meeting or planning meeting that they had, in terms of like actually when they discussed and Daemon talked about how many dragons they had to work with, he was telling Rhaenyra, basically I think he said that they had, the Greens have 3, right? And they have, if I remember correctly from what he said, actively, that with riders, I think he said that they have 9.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that have riders, right? Yep. Like, that's not counting all the ones he listed that like are either just like chilling and Driftmark, right? Like what's his name? Rhaenyr's right?
Yeah.
Just doesn't have a rider. Just chilling. You know what I'm saying? So there's another one. He's probably and he probably even has battle experience and whatnot and everything too. I would assume Sea Smoke.
Yes.
So there you go. And then you've got he said that they had 3 untamed dragons,
wild dragons.
Yep. Hanging, chilling, which they have the ability, they have the resources in terms of like the dragon trainers and like these people that are still left over from Old Valyria that know how to take dragons and train them and all that shit. They have the ability to do that. Plus, he's got that whole clutch of eggs that he found.
Yep.
Right. That came, I believe, from Cyrax.
Yeah.
So he's got that going on too, which I'm assuming he wouldn't even have mentioned it if they're not able to actually incubate them and grow and like make them hatch. Right. So all in all, I believe if I remember correctly off that meeting, they make it sound like they've got like something around 15 to 20 dragons altogether.
Yeah, I think he said if they could find riders, I think they'd have like 12 to 13. So they'd have like 4 times the amount of dragons that they would. And we'll probably go into depth a little bit more about this, but you notice the one scene is kind of towards the end where Daemon goes into this, this cave and he's singing this song in Balerion and this one dragon pops up. So that's Vermithor. So Vermithor was King Jaehaerys' dragon. So the guy that preceded Viserys, the one that had the longest reign out of any king in the whole 7 kingdoms, the peaceful king and whatnot. And there's a lot of theories that Vermithor didn't have a rider after Jaehaerys died. So he hasn't probably had a rider in like 20, 30 years. So it's like, okay, he's got to get him prepared to potentially have a human rider, which he does eventually get one, but he's also one of the few dragons that can rival Vhagar in size and battle experience both.
Yeah, I think that's sort of, this goes to the, which I don't want to jump to the finality yet, but finale yet. But as far as talking about the dragons, I think there's an issue if the rider isn't bonded with that dragon from birth, they don't have as much control. I think we saw that with what's the middle son's name? Aemond. Aemond, yeah, Aemond, with because he got that dragon after he was already like up, whatever he was 10 or 11 or 12 or something like that. So he never fully bonded with the dragon. And I think he loses control there at the end because he didn't mean for that to happen. He was just taunting him. He was just teasing him.
Yeah.
But then his dragon, he kept saying he kept saying, "Listen to my name. I command you. I command you." But he couldn't get the dragon to. At that point, the dragon had gone rogue.
Yeah.
So I think that's an issue they have if they don't have really well trained dragons. Then you're going to have dragons that you can't control, which would be worse. You're adding another amount of chaos to it.
Well, kind of like Viserys said, though, they can tame dragons all they want, but dragons still kind of do whatever dragons want to do. Like,
right.
Like I don't think Renee, I think you said you haven't watched Game of Thrones, but there's a part where Daenerys has that same issue where her main dragon doesn't listen to anything that she says, and I mean she hatched him from a freaking egg, and
really?
he doesn't listen.
Yeah.
So dragons, to me, dragons are kind of like cats. Like you can kind of tell them what to do; they'll kind of do it if they want to do it, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll listen to you because you're my main person. But that was a lot of because even Lucerys dragon, is it Lucerys or it was Lucerys that died. He, his dragon basically did that to protect him because they did grow up together. And Vhagar is like, oh hell no, you ain't about to just pop me in the face with some fire and me not deal with that. So I do kind of agree. I think it does make a little bit of a difference if they're not fully bonded, but I also think it's a little bit of, you got to think Vhagar was kind of there from the beginning. Like she was, he or she, one of the two was born on Dragonstone when Aegon the Conqueror came through. So it's like, yeah, that dragon's I've been around the block a couple times. I'll do what you tell me to do, but I ain't about to let no punk baby dragon tell me, pop me in the face with no fire.
Well, that's the issue. If they don't have full control of the dragons in the middle of a battle, if they lose control over them, then that sets them up to losing a war. So they have to be careful. What was it beyond just the mutually assured destruction aspect that they could lose control of these things and the dragons come back on them. So they have to think in those terms too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that no, I guarantee you right now that if they could have fitted in to the finale, you would have saw them in there during their meetings in the council there and everything and whatnot. That would have been flushed out. They would have talked about the experience factor, you know what I'm saying, and the difficulties of trying. Like, okay, you got Daemon bringing up the fact that they've got the 3 wild dragons. They're just kicking it on Dragonstone, right? Well, okay, what does that really fucking mean at the end of the day? Like, I mean, it's freaking like not even 50-50 they're going to be able to tame one of those damn things and be able to get one of them to accept a rider, right? So, I mean, there's
you got to think too. And one of them's called the cannibal because he loves to eat everything. Like he loves to eat people. He loves to eat, can you really tame that one? Like, do you really want to tame that one?
I decide to eat the rider someday.
Right.
A lot of some of this shit is hit or miss. It is almost strategic. The dragon stuff is strategic. You have to think it through. When it comes to even if you want to call it Dragon War, which is what we're gonna get. We're gonna get Dragon War eventually, right? Next season, which is gonna be fucking awesome. To talk about, instead of like fucking intense, savage, like fucking premature birth scenes and shit. We can see some Dragon War, much less, intense, well, it'll be intense in a different way, more entertaining. But no, basically, that's part of the war strategy. You've got to strategize with dragons just like you would with men or like an army, right? Like you have to have a strategy. You have to have a game plan. And whether or not you can control a dragon or not and whatnot, whether it will take direction and shit like that and whatnot is a part of that strategy, right? Like you've got to be realistic about your ability with the rider and the dragon, what they're capable of, right? Like we saw what happened at the end of the freaking episode of the finale with freaking what's his name, Luke, and how he made out with his like rookie ass dragon and his rookie ass, he never fought anybody on his dragon before. Yeah. So, then how did that work out? You know what I mean? Although I don't think that was that who was that? Was that Daemon? Was that Aemond?
Yeah. Aemond.
Yeah. I don't think he meant to kill him. I don't. I think he was trying to fuck with him.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, he wouldn't. He didn't mean for that to happen.
No, and you could kind of see it on his face. Like there's a lot of people that think he regrets doing it. I don't think he necessarily regrets killing him. I think he regrets being basically the match that's lit and poured on and thrown on this gasoline fire that is the war. Because kind of like you said, I don't think he meant to do it. Like you notice that he wanted to try to take his eye in Storm's Inn until Lord Baratheon was like, absolutely not, you're not doing that, my whole like leave. Y'all are just a bunch of kids trying to fight. And he's like, all right, screw it. And then of course he's just trying to mess with him, trying to scare him, not maybe knock him off, etc. Yeah, he did not mean for that to happen by no means. Like I said, that was one of those. Lucerys dragon knew that he was in trouble, knew that he was scared because it is a bond between dragon and rider. So this kind of goes back to the birth scene where you noticed how Syrax is like roaring and kind of screaming with Rhaenyra. So there's a theory that they are connected in that way mentally. So it's like, okay, the dragons can sense if you're in trouble, sense if you're hurt, or even scared. So for Lucerys' point, he's probably scared. Like, I've got a dragon that's like 6 times the size of mine, potentially about to eat me with, my quote unquote uncle that wants to kill me. Is he going to actually kill me? Is he not? And I'm just trying to get to safety. And so his dragon is like, well, I'm going to do what I can and at least, try to save him. And that didn't end well, obviously. But, it just does kind of suck that that happened. But yeah, you kind of notice on Aemond's face of like that, oh shit, I screwed up. I should not have done that.
We should have known better. I mean, again, dragons are not like that. You don't if you can't play get around with a dragon.
No.
And
like Viserys said, that was probably the one mistake that the Targaryens did of trying to tame dragons, thinking that, oh, I can make this dragon do whatever I want it to do. It's like, no, at the end of the day, that's basically a wild ass animal that will do what it wants to do. Sometimes it will do what you want it to do, but not all the time. It's a 50-50 shot.
No, and that's the thing. It's actually very interesting, Renee, because if you bring Game of Thrones into this, right, and you bring into the history that precedes before the Dance of the Dragons and before the House of the Dragon, kind of bouncing off what Tony was saying before, like if you look at for instance, if you look at from Game of Thrones, if you look at Daenerys, right, and her bond with her main dragon,
Drogon.
Drogon, and what they're capable of doing together, she can use him like a legitimate weapon where what she tells it to do, it does. You know what I'm saying? Like, it will on its own defend her and protect her individually. If she gets off him or whatever and whatnot, he still pays attention to what's going on. It will come to her aid. Right. Like, same thing with like Aegon the Conqueror. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's when there are situations where you do have riders that have dragons, right, where they do have that effective control and can order them around and whatnot, and the dragon will accept that and do its told and whatnot and everything, and almost enjoy it to some extent.
I think we didn't really see but just a little bit of it, but I'm sure they have to go through intense training their whole childhood with it, because not only are they kids, these are baby dragons that they're raising up. So I think that makes the difference when you raise it from a baby as opposed to just getting it and like you would a wild horse and taming it.
Yeah.
It can be done, but you're not going to have as a reliable dragon.
Yeah. Well, and much to your point, I think it's the same way with like Daemon and Caraxes. It was one of those, Daemon has been riding him for what we've seen, at least for 15, almost 20 years, he's been riding Caraxes. So, they're both pretty experienced at doing this. Whereas Aemond and Vhagar have been 5 years, maybe, 6, 7 at the most. And, probably the same for Lucerys even. So I definitely agree. I think it takes a lot of that. And, kind of to Jeff's point, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but there was a princess that was the niece of Jaehaerys claimed Balerion, the Black Dread. So Aegon the Conqueror's original dragon, the oldest one, the last one to see the doom of Valyria, she claimed him, and she was like 12, 13. He took her around the world there's no proof of whether or not she wanted to go there. She ended up actually getting sick and dying from it, and he ended up actually getting scars on him.
They went to Old Valyria. They went
Yeah.
to they went to the smoldering, like the Doom of Valyria area to see what was left of Valyria. Wasn't that her main goal?
I think, there's a lot of theories as to maybe he went back because, I mean, that was his home. Like, that's where he was born.
Yeah.
So she may have gone back. Yeah.
She wanted to go, because I mean, there's been multiple times throughout the history of this universe where there have been expeditions to like discover what has happened to Old Valyria, like whether or not it is humidable again and whatnot, to where people could live there again or whatnot. If it is, cursed and whatnot and everything, but from the I understand from the lore, it's cursed.
Yes.
Whatever is left there is not good. And that's another interesting part of the lore that I really enjoy, is the fact that there are like all these different places across the whole map of like this universe, where even during this time period, there are places where you can't go, like, in different parts of the world, if you cross the sea and whatnot, because there are like legitimately like almost countries or like kingdoms where they're empty, like all their population was killed or whatever and whatnot, and now they're haunted by ghosts and they're demons and shit and whatnot, right? Like anybody who goes there does not come back.
Yeah,
that's how Old Valyria is. Anybody who goes down there does not return.
Yeah, and that's why Jaehaerys put out a law, like anybody that traveled there, anybody that's ever made travel there is no longer allowed back. Like you got to go somewhere else. Like you cannot come back to Westeros because of what that princess came back with. Her skin was literally boiling from the inside out. Her eyes popped like eggs, and supposedly there was these worms with faces that was wriggling around inside of her. Like, it's crazy, like how in depth and detail they go into the book with it. But yeah, like Valyria, and even in Game of Thrones, Tyrion mentions how their uncle went on an expedition to Valyria to potentially reclaim the Lannister Valyrian sword that the Lannisters had for like thousands of years. Never seen him again. They don't know where he went. There's rumors that he went to, across the sea to probably like Bravo, somewhere like that, and lived his days out as just a regular dude. There's theories that he died in Old Valyria. And of course, in Game of Thrones, everybody in Valyria has, what is it called? Grayscale, which basically they turn to stone and they lose their mind. So those are the only people that truly inhabit Old Valyria, is people that have lost their mind and are dying anyway.
No, and if I remember correctly, right when Game of Thrones first starts, right before the Mad King, right? Didn't his brother, wasn't it his brother or whatever, that went on one of the treks or something like that and whatnot, that tried to go?
I think so.
To Old Valyria, another one of the quests where he never came back.
Yep.
Either way, now that we also get some Game of Thrones tie-ins here, because during that meeting where they do kind of like also outline where their alliances are, right? Like who they can count on militarily for support. Of course, they don't know for sure yet where Corlys is at. They know he's alive, but they don't know where they sit with him in his house and House Balerion. Now, but they do mention all three very, very, very important families of Game of Thrones, and the Tullys, which we all know you have to do with the Red Wedding and everything and whatnot, right? And then of course House Baratheon, and Winterfell and the Starks. Yep. And of course that is where Luke goes, right, at the end of the finale and whatnot and everything, on his dragon to see if the Lord of the House Baratheon will maintain his oath. And we saw how that went down. He basically kind of like was an asshole to him and was like, "You got nothing to offer me? Like the king's already offered me a bunch of shit."
Yep.
So if I understood correctly, he basically was kind of telling him to go fuck off, wasn't he? Basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, that's my thought, because he did I will say this is where you kind of see the brilliance of Otto Hightower. Of you look at what he offered Rhaenyra and Daemon, you look at what he offered Baratheon, probably the same thing with the Starks and the Tullys both, of like, hey, I have a prince that's unmarried. You can be married into the royal family, increase your power, increase your status. We can offer you this in return for your support. And it's like, yeah, poor Lucerys comes into this. He's never done one of these before. He's heard that, the Baratheon of Storm's End is kind of a crusty old man, which, basically was for the most part. Also, pretty sure he can't read, which is why he handed the scroll to his maester. So it's like, I don't think you can read, because I think most people would have just read it themselves, not hand it to their maester.
I think Rhaenyra is a good mother. She's a better mother than Alicent, but I do think that she was very naive to think it was smart to send Luke over there. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, she should have prepared him for the fact that he may have needed to go there, accepting to like marrying one of his daughters or something like that. That's how these things work. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I don't know how she did not grasp that, like, Hightower would have already reached out to House Baratheon already. They had this plan for like weeks and months before Viserys even died. Yeah. So like they've been inside, trading or whatever and whatnot for weeks. Who knows when they initially approached House Baratheon, on some slithery shit. Yeah. So bottom line, I'm just surprised at her naivete that I thought it was touching for her to be willing to send her children off like that, almost into war almost. Mm-hmm. But honestly, to send him out without any negotiating abilities, you know what I mean? Like, you should know especially having her growing up, having basically been taught by Viserys what to expect to be a ruler, right? And being a part of the council and whatnot and everything, to some extent. You would have thought that she would have had the foresight to realize, I should probably tell Luke that, like, hey, you may have to bargain with this asshole.
Well, and I think for her, where she kind of begins to struggle, and this is where she kind of shows her naiveness, is she's going under the pretense of this is kind of like how the old days was. Like, he's just going to recognize that she's a part of the crown, and therefore so is Lucerys. So I mean, I do agree. It's like, I don't think she was fully prepared for that to happen. They knew that they were plotting, probably didn't know the extent of it. But yeah, I think she was just prepared of like old promises. And it kind of shows, the fact that she was isolated, how much it changes and how hard it is to really run a kingdom when you're, so far away and you can't engage with these people on a constant 24/7 basis.
No, and look, Renee, right? Look, even Alicent was shocked when she went in front of the council last episode, right? And they delivered the truth to her and whatnot, that they've been planning for this shit for months. Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh yeah.
Even Alicent was surprised.
Yeah, she was very, very indignant about it. Neither one will rush into war. I mean, I think Rhaenyra, she doesn't want to either. I mean, they're trying to do everything they can to prevent it, and I think you're right. Sending her young or her middle son to actually see which one I get them confused. Which
that was Luke that she sent to
he's the middle. He's the middle kid, right?
She said no. It was Luke that she sent to House Baratheon,
and then Jacaerys to Winterfell.
To Winterfell, yes. Okay. Which the Starks there won't be any bullshit with the Starks. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah. But I know that he did. Maybe she expected that to happen. Maybe she said, "Well, he's going to reject him and he'll just kick him out and send him back." Maybe that's what she thought would happen. I don't know. Well, it wouldn't be. I mean, I don't think she expects that everything's going to go, cord in the hole the first time. It's going to be a back and forth. So come back. All right, when he comes back, tell me whatever that king's name was. Tell what he said, and then we'll send somebody else. But it may have been something like that she was planning. But yeah, it was. Because I mean, he rejected it and kicked him out. His trouble didn't come from that king. It came from whatever his name is, Daemon. Playing around with him.
No, and this is the thing too. It's not just that Rhaenyra is naive; it's that she's not informed. She doesn't grasp what's been going on, the depth of this shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? She's She's living by the honor code. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, she like Alicent they're trying to play catch up. with the men. What the men have already been doing all their plotting as they've been plotting for months.
Well, the men are
Yeah.
the ones that are unethical when it boils down to it, especially the ones over there, with Alicent and whatnot, her council, because when it boils down to it, in this universe and whatnot and everything, in their time, there are certain honors and duties and and ways things are done. And when you send a emissary to a house to bring a message directly, person to person or whatever and whatnot, in a act of parlay, you know what I mean, or communication and whatnot, right? Or to ask a question or something, it's considered almost beyond immoral to actually harm a non-combative person that's an emissary, right? In this time, you don't do it.
Well, to quote, you don't shoot the messenger.
No, because again, there's constant politics and everything and whatnot, and there are traditions, right? And like certain things that are supposed to be upheld. So I do believe that honestly, in Rhaenyra's mind, she thought to herself, why would anyone harm these kids? Right? Like, I mean, they're my children, right? Like,
and they didn't remember, they didn't harm he didn't harm Luke. It was his cousin who did it, or his uncle, whatever he is.
Yeah, his uncle.
Yeah, and there you go. See, it never occurred to her that like something like that would happen. That friggin' Aemond would show up at House Baratheon.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's some serious shit. That's how things went down like that, and he was just hanging out there. You know what I mean? Like, again, give hats off to Otto Hightower, that sneaky bitch. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, he's a snake.
Yeah, I don't like him. Like, I know a lot of people hated Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones, but Tywin was probably my most favorite character because he's a military strategist, like well known beforehand. Like, I'll give Otto credit, like he's smart, like he's sneaky.
I can't stand Otto. Fuck him.
But it's like, oh yeah, it's like if I was to ever see, like, probably my favorite thing was like the second episode of House of the Dragon when he goes to Dragonstone and is like, Daemon, you can't be doing this. This Daemon is like, all right, well, bring it, motherfucker. And Otto's like, ah, shit. I didn't expect to have to call your bluff. Like, oh god, no, everybody sheathe your fucking steel. No, we're not trying to fight the dragon. Like, yeah, you know, you ain't you don't have the cojones you think you do.
I think that I was honestly in my head thinking that Rhaenyra should have just let Daemon kill him right there. When he showed up at Dragonstone, I literally was like, kill him.
I'm not gonna lie. I loved Daemon's approach of, we can just send him back to the queen with his cock shoved in his mouth. I was like, I wholeheartedly like this. I agree with this. I agree with this decision. Now, of course, Rhaenyra can't, but I personally, I'm like, yeah, just fucking do it. See it.
No, because it's obvious at that point that like that these bitches are playing dirty. They've been playing dirty. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? This is like, they're traitors. If anything, at that point, you know what I mean? Like, just because you don't want war doesn't mean that you can't like kill Otto real quick and, put a cock in his mouth and send it over to him real quick. Sometimes you got to send a message.
Say, I'm a big fan of Heath Ledger's Joker. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message. Like, that was Daemon's inner, like, it's about sending a message. It's not about anything else, just sending a message.
Well, there you go. Most definitely. So, Renee, what did you think of Lena? It's not Lena. I apologize. What did you think of Rhaenys and sort of, I guess, the role she played in the finale? And now this would be one where I would ask you if you don't mind. And what did you think of her in across the span of the whole series? Like, I mean, what was her view and your take on her and like what she added?
She had accepted her fate. I mean, she knew she didn't like it, but she had accepted it. She wasn't going to do anything to upset her. I guess her cousin became the king. She was going to be loyal to him. In other words, once all that went down and she got passed over, then it went. And she said, "Well, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to be whatever it takes. I'll stand with you." And she always was loyal to him. She's yeah. I mean, her loyalty, I guess that stands out. I think she's maybe she sees her chance. Maybe she sees a small chance here now, with what's going on that maybe she has. Because I think in the last episode, even Allison, she's well, why didn't you? You could have been a great queen yourself. I mean, much better than your cousin. And but like you say, she's a traditionalist. And one of the things that you're talking about, Hightower is what they call a Machiavellian. He's one of these, whatever requires of the state, the quote unquote prince has permission to do it because he is the prince. He is the state. So therefore, whatever he decides, whatever he does, is not unethical. It would be the moral thing to do. So that's how he comes at it. So breaking these treaties, breaking all these promises, breaking whatever the traditions that they're supposed to be carrying, even with all their animosities, they still hold on to these traditions. Him doing away with stuff like that, so that which is totally different. And then Princess Rhaenys, she sees this and she's over time. I think course of the episode, she does finally come over to. She's sort of trying to stay neutral for a little while, but then she does come over to Rhaenyra's side because I think she does admire her and everything, and I think she doesn't. She knows it's wrong that if the Greens get in charge because this was not meant for them. It was meant for her family to inherit.
Most definitely. And what do you think, Tony? Same question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Rhaenys did this in probably the best way that she could. You think about it. At one end, she has Corlys saying, "Oh, you should have been queen. You should have been queen." I mean, you got to think about that. She's probably heard that for 90% of her adult life. Of, "Oh, you should have been queen." Well, it never happened, and you can kind of tell she's a little bit bitter about it. But like Renee said, she's got this kind of very old school mentality. She doesn't have anything against Viserys. She doesn't have anything against her cousin, and I think it was one of those, he also had an understanding with her of like, hey, I still respect you of, who you are, what you've done, just the fact of this whole, men over women thing is the only reason why you didn't get to be, queen over, Viserys becoming king. And, I think she did it in really a good way, even towards the end. I know Daemon was upset that, she didn't go ahead and, burn the royal family and start this war and end the whole thing. Like she said, she's like, this isn't my fight to start. Like, I got out because I was a prisoner. She kind of let them know the warning of, hey, I might have been your prisoner, but I'm still a dragon rider. I am still a Targaryen. Like, I'm still a force to be reckoned with, and you need to recognize that. And so for her, I think she's just trying to do what she needs to do. I don't think she necessarily wanted to take a side. I think she was more forced into it because of being kept as a political prisoner. And I mean, her husband is obviously going to offer support of the Navy to Rhaenyra. So for her, I think she probably put it in the best way that she could of, look, I'm going to offer you what counsel I can. I'm letting you know what's happening. I'm giving you the warning. But other than that, I'm going to stay as hands off as possible because while this is technically her quote unquote fight, it's really not. Because for Rhaenys, if you think about it, she doesn't have anything to gain and she just has everything to lose. Like, she's lost both of her kids. She just has her grandkids. Like, if Rhaenyra wins, she still doesn't become queen. Like, her position in the family doesn't change. And just the same as if Aegon stays king, it's like, okay, well, nothing really benefits me if I do this or I don't do this. So for her, it's like, nope, I'm just letting y'all know what's about to happen. And I'm going to just be in the shadows doing what I need to do.
Yes. And, I just wanted to really quick, I wanted to do a little screen share really quick and just highlight something I think is really awesome to show as a little bit of a tribute to Renee, Loki's mom, and the fine-ass work that she does in the Bleeding Edge. If you can see right there, folks, that is a She-Hulk review that Renee did where I wasn't there. This was during the hurricane period for me when I couldn't record. and Cyber held it down, and her and who was it? Her and Cyber and I believe Kevin killed it and legit pulled down almost 24,000 fucking views.
Wow.
Yeah, 24 grand. 23,159. So the hats off to you, Renee.
Well, thank you. I'm impressed myself.
Well, you should be
I'm gonna have
impressed.
to go back and listen to that show.
That is an impressive damn number. I can tell you that right now. That is a higher number than I've ever gotten off of any fucking show I've ever put up on Facebook that I've been on. So I guess the key, for the Bleeding Edge is for me to not be on shows. Right? That's
Just
it.
gotta have Renee on there.
Well, we didn't want to say that, but
Yeah. It's very clear. You know what I mean? Like, how much clearer could it be? Oh, there you go. You know what it could be, though?
What?
I blame She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
But, either way. No, you know what it was? I think that, like, when people realized that I wasn't going to be there, they're like, oh, shit. If we want to get rid of this asshole, we better, like, blow the stats up on this episode so that these people wake up and get rid of his ass. You know what I mean? Once they see how much better they can do without him, right? Maybe they'll just boot him. See? It's like Game of Thrones, man. That's the shit I gotta deal with Tony.
I know. Renee, Renee at least is a little bit more, she's kind of like the little finger / the strong dude of like, she's just doing stuff behind the scenes of like getting 24,000, and then she's gonna be like, oh man, I don't know what happened. I mean, it just they came out of nowhere.
I might have fucked up. I might have fucked up showing Renee that, because now her head's gonna get all big and shit, right?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna start asking. I'm gonna start asking for some compensation.
She's gonna get off the live stream and be like talking to people and be like, I don't know if I need this fucking Jeff guy. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, I'm carrying this asshole.
Like if you ever see anybody else ever pop up with like a little skull like emblem or anything with a skull in it, you know that we've turned to Renee's side, and it's like, yeah, you're kind of screwed, buddy.
Well, look, I'm definitely not perfect. I'm a very flawed person, but I can honestly say that I firmly believe that everybody who comes on the Bleeding Edge and whatnot knows me and everything, including you, Tony, knows that like the freaking minute that we ever make any tangible money that's real or whatever, whatnot, out of our content and whatnot or whatever, I will share the damn shit. I'm not gonna hoard it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't play that shit. You know what I mean? I don't play like that. I don't work that way. So, You know what I mean? Like, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know how Cyber views it. I've never asked him. I know personally, I believe, like, honestly, that the Bleeding Edge is not me. You know what I mean? Or Cyber or whatever and whatnot. It's the people that come on like you and Renee. Like, without you, there is no Bleeding Edge. Yeah. So I say shit like that. Sometimes I think people think that I'm full of shit. Or I'm just like gaslighting or whatever, whatnot. Or I'm trying to sound like fake profound or some shit like Rings of Power. Is be at times, you know? The fact that there is I legitimately, as hardcore as I am with some of the crazy shit I say, I am also very traditional and I am very like selfless, and I care very deeply about my friends. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, like, at that point, I genuinely do believe that like I'm just whatever. At the end of the day, I'm just the one that drives this shit. Without like all the great guests we have and everything and whatnot, and these great people like you guys, there'd be no Bleeding Edge. So it's that simple.
You're just a truck driver.
It's that simple. When it boils down to it, I mean, there's a reason why I prefer to like speak to people vocally on the phone before I record with them, right? It's because it does matter to me how people blend into the show, and whatnot, and like that I know what their strengths and weaknesses are from jump. You know what I mean? Like, I think about those things. Either way, though, no, hats off to you, Renee. Those are wonderful numbers, and if anything, I'm just happy. I don't care that I wasn't a part of it. It makes no difference to me. You know what I mean? Like, we're all a team. And so, like, I feel positive about it. I'm happy for for those numbers.
Oh, it might just been a quirky thing. I'll have to go back. I haven't listened to it again, so I'll have to go back and check it out.
I've been wanting to show you that for a minute. I keep forgetting. I saw it like 2 weeks ago.
Something weird we said or that just caught on as people are.
Well, I screenshotted it like 2 weeks ago, and I meant to send it to you and be like, "Yo, look at this shit, Renee." You know what I mean? Like, damn, you killed it, and I just forgot. So. Anyways, now Tony, you may notice actually like a different type of effect from being on the Bleeding Edge, where with your content might start to actually like slide downhill. You know what I mean? And I'm just kidding, man. I'm joking. I'm kidding. Thank God we don't have that effect on other creators, man. Like typically, usually when people who come on here, whatnot, they do get a boost off of us.
Oh, cool, awesome.
They typically do, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, man. Cyber's YouTube channel. When we started the Bleeding Edge, I think he'd been on YouTube for over 10 years. I think he had less than 200 subs.
Wow.
Right? He told me, last month that in a 30-day period, he racked up 100 subscribers plus on his YouTube channel. He went from like 312 to like 416 or something like that in less than a month.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's all because of the Bleeding Edge.
Yeah,
that's all it is. So there you go. No, everybody. I mean, that's how things are supposed to work, right? Everybody should eat.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's a network thing. It's a network. It's a business. I mean, that's what I've always told people, and believe me, I'm always skeptical about this saying of you have to spend money to make money. And I know for some people, and we won't get too deep into this, but with prices of everything going up and whatnot, people are always like, I don't know if I necessarily want to spend money into it. It's like, well, the more you put into it, look at how much time and effort and whatnot you've put into, the Bleeding Edge, and look how much success you've got because of it, because you've put in the time, you've put in money, and you've put in effort, and it continues to grow. And I know a lot of people are always like, they kind of expect those immediate results. But I always tell people, think about people who are either heavy set, if they're overweight, or if they're, shredded and ripped to like no end. It took time to do either one of those things. You don't just become, overweight overnight. You don't just become this ripped, shredded, Greek god, goddess, whatever overnight. It takes time. It takes effort to go into this. So it's a network thing, and it's just people honestly putting in the grind, putting in the work to perfect their craft, to be 100% honest with you.
Most definitely. And I do want to just mention really quick to those of you on Facebook who are able in some way to catch any of these shows lately. I just went and looked, and even though I did manually take the time to go ahead and set up Facebook as a source so that we could be on Facebook for this show, we're not there. So I don't know what the hell's going on with StreamYard. I've been back and forth with the customer support for weeks, but they're having some kind of bug or something or whatever going on where like it's affecting all the creators on StreamYard. None of us can live on Facebook. We can't. Like that's that simple. Like we can't get on Facebook. The only way I can is on the Minds Creativity Network Facebook. For some reason, they'll let me. But other than that, I can't go on. So at that point, I feel bad. I apologize, to those of you on Facebook. And I want to put out there to all of you out there, if you ever can't find us, that we are, of course, on, Rumble, Twitch. We're on Twitter Live, or I guess they still call it Periscope, believe it or not. We're on Periscope, which I didn't even know still exists, but it does. And of course we're on YouTube. That is like our, sort of our home platform. So there are other options, you know what I mean, than just Facebook and just YouTube and whatnot. We're on a lot of different stuff, and that hopefully that will continue to grow. But hats off and shout out to everybody on Rumble. We've really appreciated all of your support and whatnot during the series. And I got to be honest with you, people must have enjoyed us covering the House of the Dragon, because our stats on all of our shows have been fucking killer, like on everything. Awesome. So, hats off to everybody on Twitch, man. These House of the Dragon reviews have been the best thing we've ever done on Twitch.
And
go ahead.
I think a lot of it is honestly timing, because I mean, you think about it, this is what everybody has talked about, kind of like you mentioned a couple shows back. House of the Dragon has been one of the most watched shows that HBO has made so far because of how great Game of Thrones was for so many years. So I think a lot of it, people are always searching for more content like this. So I think it's just great that we were able to find people that like the content, like to talk about it, and of course people that like to engage, because people love this stuff. I mean, it's something that gets them out of the real world, takes them away from a lot of life's problems, takes them away from politics, sports, any stuff that they're like, man, I don't want to hear about any of this. I just want to be able to dive into something that is enjoyable, has drama, and listen to adult people have a conversation about it. And because how hard it is sometimes to find people, if you're like really like something like this and you're like, man, I'd really love to talk to somebody about this at work, and nobody else has an interest in this crap. Okay, well, I got to find other people that have an interest in it.
Well, I just feel vindicated and feel great, because You know, I mean, I know I told Renee like freaking almost a year ago that I couldn't wait for the series to come out and shit and everything, and she didn't know what I was talking about probably. But like, when I first started getting heavy into the Game of Thrones lore and whatnot and everything, and finally after it was over, and I read the Dance of the Dragons and everything and whatnot, and found out what it was all about. And then I realized they were doing this. I could not wait to jump on and cover this thing. I didn't know how I was going to do it, where it was going to happen, if I was going to have to create another YouTube channel for it or something, or how it would work at that point. But I was going to do it, you know. And then the fact that like legitimately I got a chance to do it and like meet good people too at the same time, you know, and at the same time like rub it in the face to Renee how fucking awesome it's been and whatnot and everything when she was like like questioning me and everything about it, about like getting involved in it and whatnot, which I'm just teasing her because I mean, you know, it's fair to like, it's perfectly fair to not like a certain trope or whatever and whatnot or genre and put it out there and be like, you know, look, I don't know if this is really my deal. You know what I mean? Like you can't blame anybody for just being real about that. But you know, but I do want to say that I think that even Renee will recognize that this is a very well done series. You know, like this is, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Renee,
they're not. Go ahead.
I was gonna have to ask because I hopped in on this kind of towards the latter half of this.
Yeah.
You know, Renee, you know, what has been your thought about this? Because you know, you kind of came into this completely blind. You know, I know you said that you didn't watch Game of Thrones. This isn't typically your genre of stuff that you know particularly like to watch. So this was kind of a new experience for you. You know, what's your takeaway from this? You know, is it something you feel like you've kind of learned to appreciate it? I know you still kind of have a little bit of an issue with some of the characters, basically, for lack of better words, being some immoral assholes. But you know, what's been your experience throughout all this?
Well, honestly, you know, I'm still thinking, well, do I even want to watch the next season or not?
Right.
I mean,
Come on now, shut up.
I'm still there. But yeah, absolutely. I've said it all along. The actually seeing it, because when I first saw, okay, yeah, it's going to be like where I, you know, I'm usually good. I'll give any type of TV series like 1 or 2 episodes to get into it. And if it doesn't hook me, you know, I'm done. I'll back out and quit watching it.
Yeah.
Why should I waste my time? But in this particular case, no. I mean, it in the sense of the drama and everything and how it was done and the quality of the production. I think as far as that goes, I have no problems with it at all. I mean, yeah, it's a very well done production, very well done. And there again, it's just a matter of it's just my aesthetic. I'm just not into that to looking at that. You know, it has to be something really, really special. And in this sense, I don't think that, I'm not sure what that's supposed to be about, but anyway, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
No,
It's all right. Tony, you know what that was?
no, I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. That's my hero, Chloe Zhao.
Oh boy, you can only imagine what that's from.
Well, she has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with this. Yeah.
Well, I gotta ask then, Renee. You know, do you think now that you've kind of finished it again, you know, like you said, it's not really your genre, and I'm not trying to peer pressure you by no means. Do you think that you would ever, you know, consider kind of dabbling into Game of Thrones just to maybe see like what some of the connections are? You don't have to watch the whole thing, but maybe do like a couple. Like you watch probably a couple YouTube videos of like, all right, what's the highlights of like season 1? What's the highlights of like season 2? So you kind of get like an idea of what, you know, what some of maybe the tie-ins or some of the similarities are.
Well, I've already said this, I think in an earlier review, but no, I already know I already know the Game of Thrones was a big show, and it was a lot of crap. Well, not crap, but a lot of disaster happened. Everybody dies, and I mean, it's constant body count. And if there's going to be at the same point, I mean, if I'm going to watch 8 seasons of Game of Thrones and be at the same point we are right here at the end of this show, I'm not interested in seeing that. Like I said, I want to see some hope. I want to see progress. I want to see these why should the people that have to live under these people continue to live this way? If they would all just band together, I want to see the people have a revolution and get rid of all the kings and whatnot, and get rid of all of them. That's where
fair.
I'm at.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah. I'm very, I guess you say I tend to take a more modern view of everything and a progressive view of the world. I think, we get caught up in all these superstitions and all these whatever and tribalism and nationalisms and whatnot, and it boils down to somebody's ego often. That's all it ever is, just some one guy's ego that can ruin the whole world, like Hitler, somebody like that. But anyway, I don't want to get too political or get off of that. But yeah, I don't want to see those people win. I don't want to see any of those people win. I want to see the good. I want to see the regular people win.
Fair enough. Okay.
Me too. And you know what? I am very selfless as a person and whatnot. But if I lived in this freaking universe and shit, in the House of the Dragon and all that shit, I'm a good guy and all that and whatnot. But this is a different time than what we're dealing with here in 2020, too. So if I was back in that time and shit, I'd be killing people and shit.
Actually, yeah, that's my point. If we had to look what we would have to be doing to ourselves. Look how we would.
I'd do it, man. Yeah, I wouldn't even hesitate. Yeah, I'd be killing people and all that shit.
Yeah.
See, Renee, this is where I think you would, if there was ever a character you would probably hate/love the most, I think you would love the Hound from Game of Thrones. Because he starts out as this kind of like just blindly loyal because that's what he was, raised to do. Like that's where their whole entire house came from, was just being completely subservient to the Lannisters. And then he's realized he's like, because he had kind of the same realization. He literally said, and I quote, "Fuck the king," fuck him, like it just and quits and leaves. And then he just goes on this honey badger like tangent of I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. I'm gonna kill whoever I got to kill to live. And he does kind of show he's like the royalty doesn't care. They're going to do whatever they want to do anyway. They don't care about the people. They don't care about what they do. There's no true justice. Like it's you versus everybody else in the world. And he just does his own thing.
But Tony, Renee can be very superficial at times. So I think she probably would like Jon Snow since he's so much prettier. The Hound is an ugly motherfucker.
He is an ugly motherfucker, but I mean, the Hound's got the attitude, and not to get too graphic, not to get too explicit. Hound's got a giant wiener. I mean, we've seen.
Renee, Tony just mentioned a good point. You should go back and watch Game of Thrones because of all of the straight up like flat out nude penis shots they have during the series.
Oh, okay.
There's tons of them.
Like,
I mean,
I'll tell you what, do me an edit tape and all.
Oh, okay. Just a penis clip
Just
reel.
Penis tapes. That's all.
Okay.
Because
the guy that plays the Hound is like 6'6" or like 6'7". He's probably all of about like 260, 275. Like he's actually like just a massive dude, and you just see him like whip this schlong out with this like giant fist like half around it. It's like, good God, like it's like, whose horse is that? Literally, like, whose horse is that? And it's
really, Daddy, what is that?
Yeah, don't worry about that. No.
That's interesting. Listen to two dudes talk about.
Hey, you know how
I was like, wow.
Hey,
wow.
you know how in love I am with penises. I'm telling
and you're a doctor.
That's right.
No.
I mean, I've made it very clear. I mean, I do have an inclusivity contract with the Bleeding Edge and Disney and Marvel Studios that whenever I decide to suck a penis or whatever, or put one in my mouth at any point on the Bleeding Edge, it has to be a black penis, a big one, big black one. Yep, it cannot be white. There can be no white devil penis in my shit. Okay, can't be having that. Bad enough I'm white myself, But no, so I'm thinking about this. I'm coming up with this new concept for this new She-Hulk thing called. It's going to be the She-Hulk What If series, where like it's what if, right? What if the men in society in history had actually been like those fucking douchebags of the She-Hulk series in real life? Like, what would things be like right now, societally for everybody right now, based off that, right? If if that was the reality of history of men. And honestly, I thought about it. The first installment is going to be, well, the guy who created the sanitary napkin for women for their periods and whatnot, the first tampon or whatever, basically in my first What If installment, he doesn't do that. It never happens because he actually commits suicide because he was born straight instead of gay, right? Yep. And that he couldn't handle that. And then plus he was also too masculine. So like between his over masculinity and
are we done with the show? Are we done with the show, Jeff?
I'm just
Are we
kidding.
done with House of Dragon?
It's a joke. Anyways, so no, I just want to.
It's a very bizarre joke. Very bizarre.
I think it would be a good What If episode, but no.
Okay.
Whatever.
So mail that one in. Mail that one into Kevin.
I will. So as far as what we were talking about earlier with the dragons and whatnot and everything, basically what is his name? Geez, I'm tripping all of a sudden. There he is, Balerion, the Black Dread, like Tony was talking about. Aegon the Conqueror's dragon, right? That essentially was the only dragon that was still left over from Valyria, along with his sister, I believe. And which is the dragon we saw with Daemon in the cave in the finale. I believe that was Balerion's sister. And essentially, again, Renee, just to kind of bring up the fact that when you do have a rider and a dragon that have that bond to where they are able to wield them, perfectly and accurately, like at command, essentially that's how Aegon conquered the entire Seven Kingdoms, was through fucking Balerion the Black Dread. Without Balerion the Black Dread, there would be no House Targaryen dynasty.
So is that dragon still living?
No. They showed his massive skull in the first episode.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so Viserys was his last rider. He was over 200 years old, and for dragons, they continue to grow. Like it's kind of the same theory with lobsters. Like the only reason lobsters ever die is because they're no longer able to molt and get out of their old shell and make a new one. So theoretically, lobsters could be immortal. They just have to be able to continuously molt. It's kind of the same way for dragons. Like they will continuously grow until they basically, for Balerion, he wasn't able to fly anymore.
Right.
Like
yeah, they collapsed under their own weight.
Pretty much. He had gotten so big that he collapsed under his own weight and he died. But, kind of like how Jeff is bringing up with Aegon, there would be no kingdoms without him. He only ever used Balerion to actually kill once, and that was against the previous Lannisters, the Lord of Casterly Rock, and he actually met him in the field, and they called it the Field of Fire, because Balerion actually set the field ablaze and killed thousands of men with no issue. So it was mainly he used the dragon as an intimidation factor. So he was very smart in his, we have 3 massive dragons to be able to we could burn everybody here, but we don't want to do that. We're only going to use that if absolutely necessary. So they used it in the Field of Fire, and then I'm trying to think of his younger sister's name. I think it was Rhaenyra as well. I think it started with Ray. She went to Dorne to try to get Dorne into the fold, used her dragon, and they basically created what was called a scorpion. And they allude to those in Game of Thrones, this giant basically bow and arrow that's like literally the size of a minivan, and use it to shoot and kill this dragon, and actually killed Rhaenyra, the first Rhaenyra, killed her and her dragon and caused them to fall and die. And so then Visenya and Balerion both came and set Dorne on fire as a result. But that's been one of the few times that, the dragon riders have actually, set ablaze to something just because they could. But that also kind of goes into the fact of they had been with these dragons and raised with these dragons for years. And I mean, they that's all they did was train with them on Dragonstone.
That's right. And Dorne was one of the only of the 7 kingdoms that actually held out for a long time and whatnot and everything, and had managed to evade destruction, by dragon. But no, I mean, but Balerion himself, at his size, the scope of his enormity on his own, his presence, just displaying him was enough. to where that's all Aegon really had to do, because they say that like essentially, he was so large that his when his full wingspan was opened, it would engulf entire cities in shadow beneath him, right? So he was like this freaking monster, like in the sky. Like, I mean, you know, he was. I mean, like seriously, he was very I would imagine impactful to see.
Yeah, because you got to think, if you think Vhagar's big, Vhagar is significantly smaller than Balerion.
Yes. And now Viserys was his last rider.
Yep.
And that was it. Once Balerion died, Viserys never again rode another dragon.
Yep.
You know? So there you go. Little history lesson.
Okay.
But either way, no. So as far as the other dragons go, there is, of course, Syrax, and that is Princess Rhaenyra's dragon, which we saw in the finale. Caraxes, that's Daemon's. And then we have Sea Smoke. Of course, that was Rhaenyra Valerion's. Dreamfire, that is Princess Helena's. Helena Targaryen. Yep. Vhagar, who of course Aemond tamed or bonded with. Meleys, which is Princess Rhaenyra's dragon, which we saw in last episode, episode 9. Virmax, who Jace Balerion rides.
Yep.
Sunfire, that would be King Aegon II's mount or dragon. Arax is Luke Valerion's dragon. Of course, they were both killed at the end of the finale. Moondancer is Baela Targaryen, Lena and Daemon's daughter's dragon. Tyraxes is Joffrey Balerion, Rhaenyra and Daemon. Excuse me, Rhaenyra and Daemon's third son. Used Tyrax, and then Wormathor was once King Jaehaerys. I believe you already mentioned him, Tony. Was once King Jaehaerys, the first Targaryen, who preceded Viserys. 100 years old, and that's the one that Daemon came in with the torch, sang the Old Valyrian, and was like trying to raise or whatever, find. And that's not even all of them. That's just some of them. Then you got all the wild ones and everything, and the eggs and all the other stuff and whatnot. But that's how many. Those are essentially all the active dragons we've got in this eventual war. Yep. And again, I think it's very important. I think you make a really good point, Renee, that it's going to be interesting to see in season 2 the impact of the fact that they are going to be literally legitimately throwing children out there on dragons into battle. Yeah. Right? Inevitably, that's what's going to happen. And as I was mentioning earlier, as you already know, Tony, Rhaenyra is going to blame the death of that baby, in the finale on Alicent and all these Otto and all of them. She's gonna blame them for it. So is Daemon. And essentially, she is a good mother. She does care about her children and tries to educate them and steer them and whatnot. As opposed to Alicent's, sons who are like all fucking like inbred, unethical, like disgusting, treacherous pieces of garbage, essentially. It's an interesting dichotomy, but basically I felt like you guys tell me at the end of the episode, again, when I was watching, it was pretty dark. When you see Rhaenyra there at the end, is she aware that Luke is dead?
Oh yeah, because because you notice Daemon. Yeah, like Daemon just takes her like a kind of away and tells her, and then she's distraught. I know in the books it says that Arax washes up on sea, like completely torn to shreds, but Luceria's body is never found, and they find of course Arax in Storm's End. Now there's a few like fan theories out there that maybe he survived, like he fell into the ocean and lived, but had like severe amnesia, so doesn't remember who he is, what his name is, who he belongs to, anything like that. I don't necessarily think that's true, because if you look at the height of which he fell, you hit the ocean, that's like hitting just straight concrete. Like you're gonna die.
Nah,
unless you rode the wing down. If you see the wing,
Yeah,
it's sort of spiraling down. If he was hanging onto that, he could,
if you drop
maybe
into
like lessen it. Yeah,
if you drop in the middle of the damn ocean, you're done. Like you ain't. I mean, there's no coming back from that.
yeah.
I mean, unless mermaids pop up or whatever or something and save you or some shit. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know if they have mermaids. I don't know. Maybe the Little Mermaid.
I think next season we're going to see the Aegon, the actual the second Aegon. Her son with Daemon. Because I think right now who's the heir? Her oldest son. I can't remember.
Jacaerys.
Yeah, but let's see what happens, transpires down the road, because it's really, I mean, that's what King Viserys. That's what he's trying to tell Alicent on his deathbed, that it's okay. Here's the prophecy, but it's Aegon. It's this other Aegon that he's just met. I guess that's her youngest boy or something. Rhaenyra's youngest child at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be the focus going forward. I mean, after they're going to have a war. They're going to have a war, and then we're going to see how this dynasty is going to shape up toward going however.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's been so long since I read this whole story and whatnot and everything, and like heard it, and listened to it on YouTube completely, explained to me. I can't remember how it ends. I can't. I'm sure you probably can.
Yeah, but going back to the idea that there's a whole series that's ahead. This is a prequel to the. You've only got so many options for this particular series. It can't go off on a tangent and go unexpected.
No.
Yeah, it has to fit in with the history. So
no, this is different than Game of Thrones. They don't have as much wiggle room with this at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at least with Game of Thrones, like he still hasn't, like George R.R. Martin still hasn't finished these books. So literally, season 7 and season 8 were just completely made up. They literally had creative freedom, whatever they wanted to make, they could do. But that's also where they got a lot of the criticism, is because it's like, okay, you guys just went on these weird tangents. You shortened the seasons, and story wise, you tied everything together, but it didn't really make sense. This, it's very clear cut. Obviously, Aegon II is king. Rhaenyra never technically becomes queen, and I mean, her son Aegon III, or quote unquote Aegon the Younger, does end up becoming king. So that does end up becoming to fruition. But yeah, there's very limited wiggle room. Like, they have done kind of some interesting things where initially in the book, Daemon is not as big of a main character as he is in House of the Dragon here on HBO. Like in the books, he's there, but he's not really a big impact because he never becomes king. So it's like, okay, his name is never really as mentioned as part of the history books as it would be in this show. And I mean, you think about it, they kind of have to have a true main protagonist in the show. Like, he's not really an antagonist. He really just does his own thing. He's like, I'm gonna mess with Viserys. I'm gonna kind of do my own thing. And then we've also seen his character development of how he goes from kind of being this rogue to, I'm going to support my wife. He's still kind of rogue, but he's at least got like a leash on him now. Like, Rhaenyra kind of reels him in a little bit. Like, he was all ready to kill Otto, then she's like, no, don't do that. And he's like, God damn it, fine, I won't do it.
Well, I think he's self-aware that he is kind of a hothead.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think that essentially, Rhaenyra, basically, I think that Daemon, no matter what, like, no matter what you want to think of him as a character, as a guy or whatever, if he's crazy or whatever he is, I think he always did believe and planned on holding fast to his oath to Viserys, right? You know what I'm saying? And to his house, that he would support Rhaenyra no matter what as the queen. I don't think that would have ever been a question with him of what side he would have been on that. You know what I mean? Like, say what you want about Daemon, but he's not a traitor. He's not. He loves his family. He does.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a very family forward person because I mean you look at it even when he was quote unquote like feuding with Viserys and Corlys is like yeah he's doing all this stuff he's like no I can shit talk him, you can't, like that's my brother, I can do that. So it's like you still see like he is still loyal to Viserys, he's loyal to Rhaenyra, and even when he was pissed that Viserys disowned him, like he had a perfect opportunity, he could have killed Rhaenyra, he could have started his own little war on the fact if he did that, and he just chose not to. So it is one of those for people that kind of have a love-hate for Daemon. It's like he is an honorable family man, like at the end of the day.
Yeah, they don't show him as a father at all. Like what kind of father he is or whatever and whatnot. But I'd have to imagine he's probably not a bad father.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of see it with, I mean, not really with Jacaerys being his quote unquote like stepson, but I mean, he's like, hey, I'm going to show you the true meaning of loyalty. Like there were so many ways that he could have taken that. Like he didn't try to openly berate Jacaerys. He didn't try to tell him, screw off. Like you're not my kid. You're not my blood. No, he's just like, hey, I'm going to teach you. Like this is going to be a teaching moment for you. So yeah, I do think he is a good dad because we even saw he was trying to teach one of his daughters Valyrian and like how to read the scrolls, how to like read it, how to say it, and everything like that. So I do think he is overall. I think he's more than likely a great dad.
I think with it's interesting, but I think that they only display Daemon the way that they want you to see him as the catalyst that he is. I don't think that they have any desire to show the virtuous side of him. You know what I mean? The fact that he, there's a lot of things we don't see, right? Like a lot of stuff that goes on, right? Throughout these lives that they're living, throughout these days, these years.
I don't know that they think in terms of virtue or anything like that. I think it was honor. It was,
Yes.
how good are you at your word? I think he had his issues with his brother and whatnot, and he's rebellious and everything. But yeah, in the long run, he always comes back to, you're talking about it. Daemon's a vicious man. He's a vicious fighter, but he's not cruel. I mean, he'll be cruel up to if it's in his interest or in the interest of the kingdom or whatever. Like you said, may cut off the guy's penis, stuff in his mouth, and make a point. But he's not in it because he's a sadistic. He's not getting any thrills or his rocks off doing it either. He's doing it because he feels like he has to do that.
Yeah. No, he sees that as being tactical.
Right. That's just like I say, just as you're saying, that was the times. That's how they lived. They were vicious people back then.
Yeah.
Or still are. Still are in large parts of the world.
No, and Damon's correct. I mean, during this time period, just like Game of Thrones, you can't afraid to be a pussy. Like you can't. I'm sorry, but like you know what I mean. That's why the whole thing with Rhaenyra sending Luke over there and whatnot to House Baratheon was a little weird, just because you can't show weakness. You can't. Even when you're just an envoy, like you know what I mean. Like the worst move, it didn't really make any difference in the end, but if you never know what could have potentially happened in a hypothetical situation. If Luke had actually been willing to negotiate with Lord Baratheon, right, he might have been able to work out a deal with him.
Yeah.
Now would that have saved him from getting chased down and killed on his dragon? I don't know, but either way, again, now we'll see what happens in season 2 when we actually see what happens with just Jacaerys or whatever when he goes to Winterfell. I strongly doubt that the Starks are going to allow any friggin' anyone from the House Targaryen to like hang out with them at Winterfell and whatnot, and chill just like over there with the Baratheons. But it's interesting though to me that so at the end there in the finale when you see Rhaenyra there. And she's sort of just kind of, I guess, like internalizing the situation and thinking. That's her taking in the fact that, like, she's lost her son. And, of course, I don't want to, no spoilers here or anything, Renee, but by the time this thing gets going, by probably the end of the second season, she's going to have lost all her sons, basically. Like 3 of them are going to be dead, essentially, flat out. So, I mean, she's going to have more and more and more and more reasons to be pissed off and like want to fight and like want to like throw some dragons at people and shit, you know, and burn people and whatnot and all that. She'll have reasons pretty soon, if, you know, if she doesn't already. It's going to get interesting. I'm telling you, anybody who thought this was boring, season 2 is not going to be boring. No.
Yeah, like I said, this is just like sowing the seeds for everything, like building up that drama, building up this is what's going to lead to all this. Kind of like we talked about how some people weren't fans of the fact that there were no, you know, big fights, there's no big battles right to start off with. Well, it's like, well, you can show a bunch of people fighting, but if you don't have the reason as to why, it kind of defeats that purpose of, you know, well, why do you have a bunch of these dudes just fighting it out? You know, you gotta have the backstory as to why, because the backstory does make it a little bit more interesting. Of that's why this guy punched this other dude in the face, and you know was screaming his head off and saying all these things to him. So
I'm just looking really quick to see if I can find something accurately here in terms of ratings for the overall series, and let's see. Everything I'm seeing is just talking about the first couple episodes. That's okay. So basically, let's see. House of the Dragon ratings. Okay, here we go. The series premiered to HBO Records and is averaging 29 million viewers per episode across all U.S. platforms, according to the network. This was on October 9th. And let's see. House of the Dragon, episode 10, sees 9.3 million viewers, biggest HBO season finale since Game of Thrones. Well, that's not very surprising. The Black Queen. Pretty good title, right? Mm-hmm. I guess pretty apt, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I do want to mention, the last thing I just wanted to point out from the episode that I thought was important was that, of course, we did get Corlys finally in the game. You know, once he had his little talk with Rhaenys, and he hobbled his way into the council meeting when they, you know, and he swore his fealty and whatnot, and explained really quick to Rhaenyra and Daemon that, hey, you know what? We did actually kick the Trarchy's ass. We have control of like the Stepstones now. We've left emissaries back there and whatnot. We have control of it. So at that point, we will be blockading anybody and stopping anyone from shipping anything, you know, through the Stepstones. Is not happening. Like we have control of that, you know, those shipping lanes, and you've got my fleet, you know, you've got my house, you've got our dragons, and you've got my fleet. That's a big freaking deal. That's a big thing. His fleet's no joke. And I don't know as well as maybe you do, Tony, in terms of how important having control of those shipping lanes are to, for instance, King's Landing, right? Mm-hmm. But overall, in general, I would think that if they were able to choke off shipping completely to the Seven Kingdoms, that would force the entire society to suffer.
Well, kind of, because you got to think if we looked at the map of Westeros, like they control all the main shipping into King's Landing, so they could still get things into King's Landing. However, they're going to have to take the long way. Kind of like if you think about you know how they used to sail to try to get to you know, India from Spain or whatnot. You know, you had to go all the way down Africa, then you had to come all the way back up. They're like, well, what if we sail this opposite way and try to cut through like that? It ended up being a longer way, but they ended up finding something different. So for them, they could sail into, say, Lannisport and come in from the west. However, they're going to have to, you know, cross all through, you know, that part of Westeros. And really for Rhaenyra and her army, it makes it so much easier, because if they're already blocking the sea, okay, you only have one option to funnel everything in. If we can cut that off, then you really can starve out the city. So it gives them an extreme advantage, because they can block one side. They can block the easiest, you know, path of travel for them to be able to get into. And, you know, the Valerions are official royal navy of the king and of the Red Keep and whatnot. So with them being on Rhaenyra's side, they've effectively lost their entire naval force, and there's no other that's going to be able to really compete with it at the current moment. Anyway, there's none that can compete with it.
There you go. That right there is that's not large enough though. That does show the stepstones right there. That is a world view of the Westeros Essos area. But I want something that's more direct that actually shows the shipping lanes. Sorry about that, folks. I should have that's the kind of thing that I should have prepared. But real quick, this should only take me a second. Come on now, Google. Give me a map. Okay, I think I found a good one. Here we go. Oh. You know what? Fuck you, Pinterest. Don't even worry about it, folks. We don't need no damn maps. Who needs maps? We don't need one. We'll just imagine. Just imagine, baby. So either way, though, that's definitely a major military coup for her, for Rhaenyra. That and I think that basically, if I remember correctly from the finale, that sort of inspires her. That sort of redoubles her energy. And that's when she really kind of gets it together and starts delivering her strategy and explaining how she wants things handled. And she does she is the shot caller. I mean, she's the one that's going to be running the show. And I was almost compelled and impressed by how well she delivered her commands and whatnot and everything, and devised her plans the way she did. So, kind of off the cuff the way she did. And thank you, Cyber. That was an awesome map. I know it was really great. It did a lot for everybody. It really did. It really showed a lot. But no, I feel like, could anybody understand what it was that Alicent sent through auto to Rhaenyra, that parchment?
Yeah. Do you remember in the first couple episodes, where they're out underneath the tree, Alicent's trying to get Rhaenyra to study because the Septa's going to be pissed if she doesn't, and Rhaenyra recites it perfectly and then rips that page out of the book, and Alicent's like, "Oh my god, she's going to kill you," type thing, and Rhaenyra's like, "Yeah, I'm still just going to do what I want." It was that, hey, do you remember the good times that we used to have type thing of trying to appeal to the memories of when they were friends.
Yeah, and that's just your typical slithery snake auto type bullshit right there. Seriously. What did you think about that, Renee? I mean, in a situation like this, with auto basically showing up to essentially, almost demand action on their part, to kind of bend the knee, to the new king. Do you think that Rhaenyra, even at this stage, has any faith in Alicent?
No, I don't think she does. I think she knows that she respects her. I think she's not going to underestimate her.
Yes.
But I don't think whatever connection they had as kids, I think that's done for. I think that was the last appeal. And they both seem to be trying. I mean, it's not that, this war is going to come up because of Daemon's or whatever his name is stupid mistake. That's they were sort of trying to get things lined up where they could negotiate and have some sort of a peace. Try to figure out, well, is this the king or am I the, or however they're going to do it. But yeah, that's all out the window now. I mean, it's gone. And I think whatever connection she had with Allison is over with.
No, and you know what? They could. I mean, just because they were given terms doesn't mean that like Rhaenyra could not have turned around the next day and like offered new terms and rebutted them and tried to negotiate more terms, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was the whole thing about sending Luke. She probably knew that, or figured that he would be bounced back out of there, and he'd have to come back, and they'd go back and forth for a while. You know, that I think she was expecting that, but of course that's all over with now because of a stupid mistake. You know, a kid's mistake, as it were. Sadly.
Well, I mean, you tell me, Tony. How old is Aemond at this point? Isn't he kind of like in his early 20s now, or is he late teens?
I think late teens, like early 20s, yeah. Because you got to think, like it was the 10-year gap when we first see like older Rhaenyra, older Alicent, and he's probably about what, like 12, 13-ish in that, and then about 5 years after. So yeah, he's probably about 18, 20-ish, if that, as far as his age goes. And Lucerys is probably what, maybe 13, 12, 13-ish at the oldest.
Is it just me, or did Rhaenyra look more healthy in this episode, in the finale, like almost like more attractive than she normally has in the last couple episodes? I felt like she did. Besides the intense, like stillbirth thing.
I think it was probably just like this episode really kind of helped show like more of her confidence, because like the first couple episodes, she's struggling with the fact of everybody knows that her kids are bastards. She's constantly being questioned. She's at the Red Keep. She's not happy. She's constantly having to deal with Alicent and the High Towers and whatnot. Then she's able to get with Daemon. And I think with Daemon, she's finally happy. She's with somebody she can love, and she can finally have legitimate kids with somebody that won't be questioned. They can be a legitimate thing. And she's able to get away from all of it. Well, now that she's being roped back into it, she knows now that she finally has like a support system that's finally behind her. And I think that confidence kind of radiates out in this episode of like, she knows she's powerful. She knows she has allies. She knows she has somebody that has her back, basically. So I think that's probably where like a lot of that attractiveness comes through, of like she's finally kind of come into her own, and of the Rhaenyra that we probably expected from the beginning.
See, we should have got an episode where somebody like, when like everybody was challenging Rhaenyra's kids and everything, somebody should have jumped in and been like, "We're taking this to Maury, baby," and they should have went to Maury and went on the Maury show, and they should have worked that shit out on Maury, right?
You are not the father.
Yeah, that's right. I know he's the daddy.
Actually, part of me would more have wanted to be like you can have it on Maury for like the identity of the kids, but then afterwards, like this last episode, I want it on Jerry Springer. Like I want Daemon and Otto to be on Jerry, and Jerry trying to like talk this out.
I can just imagine like the character from House of the Dragon on Maury. Like it'd be hilarious. It'd be great.
Well, especially like because Alicent would be one of those people, like the minute, Maury said, "Laenor, you are not the father. I told you.
Renee, have you ever seen Maury where he does the paternity test episodes where there's like a whole bleacher full of dudes?
Oh, like, golly. What? Not in 30 years?
Well, there's like the chicks there. There's a whole bleacher full of dudes.
Are those shows still on? Are they actually
I don't know.
Maury is they stopped Jerry Springer, I think, last year. Now he has like a YouTube show, Judge Jerry. Like he's a
Maury's
judge.
Still on? Oh man,
Maury is still on. Maury's still rolling.
I'll watch him again.
Yeah. I saw some of that back when it was first started out. Those shows are train wrecks. Yeah,
I love it. The one chick was out there, they had a whole bleacher full of dudes. No, they had a whole bleacher full of dudes. There was like 27 dudes in the bleachers, and they're all like shaking their heads and shit and everything and whatnot. And like the chick comes out and she's like, I know one of those guys is the daddy, right? None of them were.
Yeah, none of them.
Oh, that's sad freak shows that we have to.
Like that honestly was like my favorite thing whenever, because I was sick probably a majority of my life from kindergarten to first grade. So I'm like, 6, 7, 8 years old. That's like my favorite thing to watch whenever I had to stay home. It was like Price of Right, like all the game shows like Price is Right, everything like that. And then you had the afternoon shows, and then it was like, I got Jerry Springer and I got Maury. What better way to end my day?
My dad used to play Howard Stern all the time in New York when I was growing up and whatnot, when he would drive me to school and stuff like that and whatnot, or when we would go to work. When I was a kid and I would go to work with him, he would always be playing Howard Stern on in the morning and whatnot and everything. And I'm telling you, some of the stuff that was going on that show, I didn't even know what the hell was even going on, what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Wow. Either way.
Totally. I had a totally different upbringing. You would have never, oh my gosh, that would have never been, any of that would have been acceptable. But somehow, some way, it creeped up on us.
Well, you probably never would have been allowed to have had a 17-year-old girlfriend when you were 13, like I did. That was allowed to spend the night at my house and whatnot and everything. We would go to school together in our car the next day and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
No, that wouldn't. You're absolutely right. That would have been. Wouldn't have been smiled at in my generation. If girls, teenage, my age, and I had a few friends that got pregnant, still in high school, you had to quit high school.
Yeah.
See, now if that happens, you start an OnlyFans account, and you start making some money off that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live in a totally different world than what you guys grew up in a totally different world than the one I did. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, if I had the opportunity to start an OnlyFans and make as much money as some of these girls can make, I'd do it. I ain't even mad.
Me too.
Me too.
I'm telling you, me too. I would but except my niche would be the extremely small penis. Niche. You know what I mean? Like that would be my thing.
It's out there for everybody. It's somebody out there wants that. Somebody out there would subscribe to that. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I'm telling you, I would not. I wish I had the kind of.
We've totally hoard ourselves out. Every one of us.
Hey, if I could make money off selling feet pics to dudes, I'd do it. I don't care. I would pretend I was a woman. I'd be like, here you go, man.
100%.
Yeah.
I'd shave my legs, shave my feet, paint my toes.
If you lived back in the House of the Dragon days, Jeff, you wouldn't be one of the fighters. You wouldn't be one of the dragon. You'd be one of the guys out on the street showing his dick to people for a kopeck. Yeah,
just randomly show my dick to dudes. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you'd be reduced to. You wouldn't.
Jeff would be the fine
your puny little body for pennies.
It wouldn't be. Yeah, you think Jeff would be this like noble lord? Nah, he's Laris out here selling feet pics to whatever people will buy him.
Yeah, that's what he'd be a foot fetish.
Oh, Jar Jar, what happened, man? Oh, jeez, Jar Jar got fucked up. Anyways, no, like what's his name there? Clubfoot over there with Allison. Last episode.
I think it's Larry's. Isn't it Larry's?
Yeah, Larry's.
If we were doing we'd have to do the podcast. We'd be doing a puppet show out in the street.
Yeah. There you go. That'd be very entertaining.
I'd have a little skeleton, rattle a little skeleton.
All right, I'll tell you what. Why don't we go ahead and drop our ratings? I mean, I already dropped mine. It was a 10.5. That hasn't changed for any reason. So I'm going to stick with my 10.5. But Renee, if you want to go first, and then you, Tony, give me your 1 through 10 on the finale.
I'll give it an 8. It's good. It was a solid show. I mean, it's a solid. One more time. I'll say it one more time. I got no problems at all with the series, with the TV show itself. It's well done. Adult entertainment.
Yep. Well done. Not question. If anything, we didn't spend enough time probably talking about how well produced it was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tony.
I'm gonna give it a 9, and I only give it a 9 because I wish it would have been longer. Like honestly, like I wish, and obviously they have to leave it on a cliffhanger to get everybody to come back for the second season. Like I 100% get that. I got no issues with that, but no, I give it a 9. It was extremely well done. I think that their focus of everything, how they kind of tied everything together. They still mention that the king died. At least we know at the end of the season, everybody is aware of what's happening and the seeds are sown. That's what I was kind of afraid of. That it might end of like, the second season is when Rhaenyra will find out that, this happened, or when they leave off of the cliffhanger and then the second season starts, they're like, oh, well, Rhaenyra found out this way. It's like, nah, that's not the way that I want this to find out. So I think it was really well done. I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10.
Did the time jumps work for you at the end of the day, Tony? And then you, Renee, do you think overall, now that we've gotten through the whole series, do you think the time jumps worked? They were a good move?
I think so, because even though some people probably didn't like the time jumps, it does give them a little bit of flexibility, because they, when you're doing this first season and you're trying to establish everything, it's hard to tell the entire story of somebody in just 10 short episodes without, potentially being like, oh, well, you skipped over this, you guys didn't explain this, and kind of making a mess of everything. It gives them an opportunity for future episodes, if they want to do a quote unquote filler episode, or even, kind of dive deep into what happened in between there. It gives them that opportunity of, okay, well, what happened between the 10 years of when Laenor and Rhaenyra get married into the 10 years of when they come into the future and, his sister is dead. So I think they worked well. I think it gives them a lot of wiggle room for episodes in the future to kind of be able to jump back and forth between both, as far as, kind of filling in maybe some of the holes in the plot and storylines of people.
What do you think, Renee?
It didn't bother me. I mean, I didn't really notice it. I mean, it's not the first show that's done that has, huge time jumps, space, but and it worked out well. I mean, we understood who all the characters were. I mean, I didn't have any problem if somebody sort of came in at the mid part of this show. They were explaining who they were, so I didn't have a problem with it.
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what then, folks. I think we're going to go ahead and call it right there on this finale review. And at that point, I just want to thank Tony. I want to thank Renee for sharing this time with me and whatnot, and doing this review with me, being a part of this, this series with me, us doing this together. I want to shout out to, to Bob. Bob, sorry that things worked out the way they did between, us and whatnot and everything, but thank you very much for all the good work you did with us and whatnot on the series and whatnot. You did a great job. Shout out to HBO Studios. Great job. You produced a hell of a series. I can't wait to see season 2. Besides that, Tony, if you want to do any plugs, Renee, if you've got any information or news about Podcast of Champions or Sakar or anything whatnot you want to talk about, feel free.
Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you guys can always catch me on Inside the Hoosier Mind. That's my own personal podcast. I'm on Anchor. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all of that. I'm primarily on the All Sports, All Plays network. So like I said, I primarily do sports podcasts, a lot of NFL, a lot of college football, college basketball is coming up. So I'll definitely be jumping into that as we kind of end the year, and then we'll eventually get into March Madness, which is for sports fans, at least, it's an absolute blast. So that's typically where you guys can find me.
Excellent. And I will actually make sure that I make an effort. In fact, I'll write myself a note, Tony, to go ahead and get a hold of you on the messenger so you can send me some links. So I have something that I can share and distribute.
Yeah, I can do that. And yeah, I do want to thank you guys for having me on too. I know I kind of came into the game late as far as being on House of the Dragon, but it's been a blast though. I've loved talking with you guys and having in-depth conversations on it. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and appreciate having the discussions with you guys. It's been fun.
Hey, you ain't going nowhere, you son of a bitch. Once you start coming on the bleeding edge and having a good time on here with us and whatnot, you don't disappear, man. That's not how it works. So I have a very strong feeling you'll be right back here very soon. I'm back on the panel covering some new shit.
Oh, more than likely.
Come on now. We got to see what your Marvel game is like now.
Ooh, it's not as strong. Not as strong as I would like for it to be. I'll have to work on that one.
Well, hey, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure we're gonna have plenty of cool shit to cover and whatnot and everything, and we'd love to get you in on it. You've done a great job, and you've blended very well right into with me and Renee and whatnot. We've had a great time working with you. It's been fun. And at that point, Renee, what's going on with Sakar these days, man? What's going on with all the drama?
Oh golly, I don't know. I know they're still running reviews of House of Dragon. Oh, they may have wrapped that one up. A hot D as they call it. They're also doing the Power of the Ring.
Rings of Power.
Rings of Power. The Rings of Power. And I'm not sure if they have. I think they may have something else going. I know we're going to be doing the Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special soon. Yeah. So, and then of course Black Panther should be coming up the next few weeks, which I'm looking forward to. Wakanda Forever.
I am too. I am too. Baby. Wakanda Forever. I can't wait. I can't wait to give my tickets to some black person that needs my ticket. You know. Okay. It's going to be great.
Or maybe they'll donate theirs to you. They'll take pity upon you, and I think that white boy needs to see this movie.
There you go. Hey, look, I'm from Wakanda. I mean, I'm
from Tuscan. I thought you were from Tuscan.
Oh, I mean, I'm from everywhere, man. You know what I mean?
He's a Tuscan translator.
Yes, I'm a Tuscan translator. I spent some time at Tatooine and whatnot just for my training. But I'm actually
he was bonded to a stick at birth.
Yes,
that's right. No, I'm still a dedicated Tuscan translator. I'm still working on my studies. But yes, I'm from Wakanda. I have the tattoos and shit on my gums and all that stuff and whatnot. Because I am transracial. I'm Rachel Dolezal's cousin. And at that point, I'm actually part black. So I'm actually from Wakanda. I just don't talk about it a lot. I don't want to confuse anybody, So, but no, folks, I'm actually not from Wakanda. Wakanda is actually not a real thing. Believe it or not.
Darn spoiler.
Hey, you know what? Believe it or not, there are black people out there and whatnot that swear to God, that will swear to you on YouTube that their Wakanda's real. Right? And legitimately, it's all real.
I believe it. I mean, it only takes a few people to, and believe me, if you say something with enough confidence, people believe you. It's like,
and they're proud of it too. Yeah. They're proud of their heritage of Wakanda and everything and whatnot. Those are their ancestors.
I mean, if it is true, and I mean, if it's a legitimate thing, they got some badass ancestors. I ain't mad at them. I ain't mad at all. But some people might look at you like you're a little weird. But hey,
Well, yeah.
That's their chicken to fuck. I'm just here to catch the feathers.
Hey,
that's the only thing I'm here for.
That's the impact of the devastation of the white devil on the black psyche. That they've been degraded to the point where they have to believe that Wakanda's real.
For the record, I'm not a part of this conversation, folks. I don't adhere to any of those beliefs.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I apologize, folks. I was not laughing at that. I was laughing at something else. I swear. My other monitor over there. Anyways, but no, folks. I don't have any plugs. Because I don't make any individual content. I'm all bleeding edge, baby. That's it. But you know what though? I'm actually guesting on two. I can't remember their names at the top of my head. I don't have them right in front of me. I'm guesting on two podcasts this month that are actually out of the country. One of them is a couple gentlemen from they're Scottish. They're from the Scotland area or UK, and then the other one is also the UK, and it's a UK podcast, entertainment, pop culture podcast, and they're going to bring me on to talk about Marvel Phase 4 and all that kind of stuff and like a recap or whatever, So yeah. You're
going international.
Yeah, well, a couple weeks ago, I was thinking to myself, what's something interesting I could want to do more of, or for this year, something different. And I was like, you know what? I want to go ahead and try to record and have guests on the show more that are from other countries. I think that's a good goal.
Cool.
Why not?
Yeah.
There's nothing like having to record at like 4 a.m. with somebody. You know what I mean? To make it work. It's great.
Yeah.
Best time. So either way, besides that, folks, that's the end. I'm hurt. I'm crying inside here. I'm gonna have to. I mean, House of the Dragon was so great. Now I'm gonna have to go freaking back to watching, stuff like Captain Marvel.
I am Groot.
I am Groot. Captain Marvel. I mean, it's rough, man. But it's okay. It's all good. I definitely did enjoy House of the Dragon. And look, folks, take care. Have a great week. Have a wonderful next weekend. And hopefully by next weekend, we'll have something wonderful to cover on Sunday, by then. I don't know. We'll have to figure out what we're going to do next. It could be, us reviewing the Housewives of Atlanta, maybe.
I will say Fire Country, if you guys have Paramount Plus, Fire Country is really good. And then they just did Tales of a Jedi on Disney Plus. That one's like super fast. You can get through that in like 2 hours. Like those episodes are super short. But it does give you kind of a cool insight into how Count Dooku ends up going into the dark side. So really, really good little miniseries.
I'm surprised Renee didn't already mention that show from Paramount Plus. She seems to always know what the hell's going on with Paramount Plus.
Oh, I didn't know it was on. No, I haven't been watching Paramount Plus here lately.
Yeah, it's called Fire Country. It's on CBS. They do a new episode every Friday night. It's a really good series so far. Give you guys kind of a backstory, hopefully without giving any spoilers. It's a guy who he comes back to his hometown in California. His mom is a fire department chief. Same with his dad. They're very well respected, very well known in the town and in the community. His sister actually ends up getting killed while he's driving a car. His parents blame him for it. His dad tells him never to come back. He ends up his life kind of goes downhill. He gets arrested and he goes to jail. Well, the jail has this program where you can become an inmate firefighter and it reduces time off of your sentence because you're basically giving back to the community. And he gets sent back to his hometown to basically help fight fires and gets reconnected with his parents and everybody that he used to work with at one point. So it's really kind of a cool story so far. I'm only about they just released episode 5. I haven't watched it yet, but 4 episodes in, it's a pretty good series so far.
Excellent. That is definitely good to hear. And I must say that Renee, did you see the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special teaser trailer?
Yes, I've seen it one time. It
was pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I think it's one of those not take it too seriously type. Just have a good time, enjoy the Guardians type deal. So I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. It looks awesome. And also, yes, the Bleeding Edge is endorsing Man-Thing to direct the second Eternals film instead of Chloe Zhao. We're very high on Man-Thing. He's a cool dude, Ted. And shout out to Marvel Studios. Hey, you know what? The Werewolf by Night special was awesome. Absolutely wonderful. Well done. Really good. Tony, did you see that?
Really good.
I have not, no.
Oh, man. You'll enjoy it, believe me.
And I heard a rumor, Jeff, that actually it's not a rumor. I think it's finalized that Loki will be in the Deadpool 3.
No.
That's what I heard.
For what?
So you've got Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman already. I mean, that's like a bromance that we've all wanted to see and know.
So they're going to have a triangle.
I don't even want to hear. I don't even know why. I can't believe they actually managed to bring Hugh Jackman back.
I know that is really surprising. I didn't think they were going to, but I guess
they said it's going to be R-rated. It will be R-rated.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Like they like if have you seen the they did like a couple little mini shows on YouTube of like them having a war with each other, and they made each other a a commercial for the other one's product. Like Ryan Reynolds did Hugh Jackman's coffee company, and Hugh Jackman did Ryan Reynolds' aviation gin, and literally just opens the bottle and just pours it out on the table.
I thought that Josh Brolin was great as Cable in Deadpool 2, and I was really hoping that I was hoping that they would keep him around.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't kind of dive deep, like even deeper with like kind of more of a backstory on him. Like, what is his time period? Like, how does he cope? Like, what does he do in his time period?
Well, that's a very delicate thing because you got to remember we still don't know when we're going to get the X-Men in the MCU. Yeah. And on top of that, Deadpool 2 was made by Fox, right?
Yes.
So I mean, at that point, let's be honest here. Anybody knows anything about Cable knows that you can't bring up Cable's origin story and not mention the X-Men.
Yeah,
there's no way around it. So that would have been tough. Yeah. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens. I just thought he was pretty good. I'd like to see him stick around. But then again, maybe it was bad timing. By the time we get the X-Men, it won't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it was just hard with because like he was mainly the antagonist, so they didn't really focus on his backstory too much. They gave you like a little bit of a taste. This was mainly like Deadpool 2 was mainly about Deadpool and trying to like reach this kid. So maybe that's why it's like, well, he's just kind of like Cable is just kind of like an afterthought. Yeah.
No, and I mean, you're right. Yes, they probably did it as a one-off kind of thing, if anything. But it'll be interesting to see how Deadpool 3 plays out, and if they want to throw Loki in there, I'm not going to complain about it. I love me some Loki. I can't wait for Loki season 2, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to say, what's that, Renee?
I said me too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think as of right now, that's probably what I'm most looking forward to next year, at least Disney Plus wise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think probably by summer. I think they wrapped it up a couple of weeks ago, so they should be by summer. They should have it out.
That's right, and Sylvie will be back. I love me some Sylvie, man.
Mm-hmm.
She certainly held her own with Loki and Tom Hiddleston. Yeah. But anyway, folks, like I said, have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good rest of your Sunday. We'll see you next week. See you next time. Peace.
Galaxy. Yeah. Someone at the door, John, now I'm here to stay. Tell me who the fuck gonna face the music. More brick laying, less screen time. Been cutting back on the daily usage. Long road for the road dogs, for the weird minds from a soapbox. Got BKTs on this bitch, so everybody getting rolled on, yeah. Yeah, everybody getting rolled on. Check all this credits on BMI. I'm just too kind to expose y'all. And I see a team with a gold sign and question if y'all ever roll